Why everything changes after paying off your house. For most of your adult life, your home hasn't actually been yours. It's been a joint venture between you and a massive financial institution. But the day that balance hits $0, something tectonic shifts. It isn't just about the money, it's about a fundamental rewiring of your brain and your future. Here is why everything, and I mean everything, changes the moment you own the dirt you stand on. Most people think a mortgage is just a line item on a spreadsheet. It's not. In terms of human biology, a mortgage is a low-grade, chronic, predatory threat. For the last 15, 20, or 30 years, your brain has been operating under a biological tax. From the moment you woke up on Monday morning, the first 2 or 3 days of your labor didn't belong to you, your children, or your future. They belonged to the bank. This creates a psychological state known as scarcity signaling. When you are in scarcity signaling, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning, creativity, and empathy, actually begins to shrink in favor of the amygdala, the fear center. You aren't building a life, you are defending a perimeter. You are in a 20-year defensive crouch, constantly calculating, if I lose my job, how many months until the locks change? The moment that final payment clears, the invisible weight vanishes. It isn't just about having extra cash, it's about the cessation of a threat. Physiologically, your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, begin to recalibrate. For the first time in your adult life, your home is no longer a liability that could be taken. It is a fortress that is. You move from a survival brain to a thrival brain. Think about the math of your energy. If you were paying $2,800 a month, you didn't just get back $2,800. You got back the mental bandwidth it took to earn that money, track that money, and worry about that money. In survival mode, you make decisions based on fear. You stay in the soul-crushing job because the mortgage is due on the 1st. You don't take the creative risk because the stakes are too high. You are a high-stakes gambler every single month. But when the house is paid off, the floor of your life is permanently raised. Even if the economy collapses, even if your industry is disrupted by AI, even if you decide to quit and paint landscapes for a year, you have secured the most expensive basic human need. You finally stop working to sustain your existence and start working to expand it. You aren't just debt-free, you are threat-free. And that, more than the money, is the greatest physiological upgrade a human being can experience in the modern world. The identity shift protocol. Before we move to the next point, I want to share a psychological secret. Your brain is wired to mimic the tribe it follows. If you follow people who complain about debt, you will find reasons to stay in debt. But if you hit the subscribe button right now, you are performing a micro-action of intent. You are telling your subconscious mind, I am no longer a borrower, I am a builder. Use this channel as your digital environment to keep your thrival brain activated. Join the tribe of owners. Click subscribe. 2. Radical risk tolerance, the unshakable floor. Most people spend their careers walking a financial tightrope. Every bold career move, every potential business idea, and every leap of faith is tethered to a terrifying reality. If you fall, you lose the roof over your head. This is the housing hostage effect. It keeps you compliant. It keeps you quiet in meetings where you should speak up, and it keeps you in a safe job that is slowly draining your soul. But the moment that deed is recorded in your name, that tightrope turns into a 10-foot thick concrete foundation. The psychology of the safety floor. In psychology, there's a concept called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the very base are physiological needs and safety. When your home is paid off, you have solved the safety tier of the pyramid for the rest of your life. When the worst-case scenario, total job loss or economic depression, no longer results in homelessness, your risk appetite undergoes a radical chemical shift. The burn-the-ship strategy. You can finally start that business you've been dreaming about for a decade. Why? Because your burn rate, the amount of money you need just to exist, has plummeted. The power position. You can walk into your boss's office and negotiate from a position of absolute strength. You aren't begging for a paycheck, you are offering your services. There's a specific smell of FU money, and employers can sense it. It smells like competence and lack of desperation. The innovation dividend. Think about the greatest innovators in history. Most of them had a base that allowed them to fail. When you own your home, you have granted yourself a lifetime innovation dividend. You are no longer playing a loss aversion game, where your primary goal is not to lose what you have. You are now playing a gain-seeking game. If you invest $50,000 in a startup and it fails, you still have your bed. If you take a lower-paying job at a high-growth company for equity, you still have your kitchen. Ownership turns you from a defender into an aggressor. You stop asking, what if this goes wrong? And you finally have the mental space to ask, what if this goes right? Everything changes because you are no longer a tenant of your own life. You are the landlord of your destiny.
3. The opportunity cost flip. Most people understand that paying off a mortgage saves them interest. They look at the statement and see they'll save $100,000 or $200,000 over the life of the loan. But that is linear thinking. To truly understand why everything changes, you have to master exponential thinking. This is the moment your life undergoes the opportunity cost flip. For 20 years, you have been an unpaid employee of the banking system. Every month, you took a massive slice of your life energy, your time, your stress, your overtime hours, and you handed it over to a skyscraper in Charlotte or New York. You were fueling their compounding engine. But the day that mortgage hits zero, the engine doesn't just stop, it reverses direction. The velocity of capital. Let's look at the wealth velocity shift. If you were paying $3,000 a month toward a mortgage, that money was dead to you. It was equity locked in a brick box. But the moment the house is yours, that $3,000 a month becomes liquid fire. In survival mode, you were saving what was left over after your bills. In ownership mode, your bills have collapsed, meaning your savings rate can mathematically explode by 300% or 400% overnight. If you redirect that $3,000 a month into a diversified portfolio earning a standard 7 to 8%, you aren't just saving, you are building a parallel income stream that will eventually dwarf your original salary. In 5 years, you've stacked over $200,000. In 10 years, you're looking at nearly $550,000. That is the paid-off dividend. You are now buying your future self a decade of total freedom every few years you keep working. The defensive wealth multiplier. But it's deeper than just the investment. There is a psychological phenomenon called the endowment effect, but with a twist. When you own the home outright, your cost of living becomes so artificially low that your taxable income requirement drops. Think about this. To pay a $3,000 mortgage with after-tax dollars, you actually have to earn roughly $4,200, depending on your tax bracket. When the mortgage vanishes, you don't just save $3,000, you save the $1,200 in taxes you no longer have to pay just to fund that debt. You have effectively lowered your personal inflation to near zero. The cognitive surplus. Now, here is the secret no one tells you, the cognitive surplus. When your money is no longer tied up in a liability, your brain stops looking for maintenance income and starts looking for multiplication income. You stop asking, how do I make enough to pay the bills? You start asking, where is the highest and best use for this capital? You move from the debtor class, those who trade time for interest, to the owner class, those who use capital to buy back time. This is the flip. You have spent half your life working for a house. For the rest of your life, that house works for you by eliminating your biggest expense and allowing every single dollar you earn to go toward legacy. This is where generational wealth is born. It's not born in the paycheck, it's born in the gap between what you earn and what it costs you to exist. And by paying off the house, you just created the widest gap possible in modern society.
Section 4. The Sanctuary Effect. The psychological transformation of space. We have talked about the math, the risk, and the survival mechanics. But now we have to talk about the most profound shift of all, one that happens deep within your subconscious. It is the transition from housing to sanctuary. For most of your life, your home has been a temporary conditional arrangement. You might have painted the walls or planted a garden, but in the back of your mind, there was always a silent partner, the bank. There was a lingering feeling that you were just a high-end tenant with a long-term lease. The end of transience anxiety. Psychologists identify a specific type of stress called transience anxiety. It's the low-level fear that your environment is not truly yours to control forever. When you owe a mortgage, your home is technically an asset on someone else's balance sheet. But the day you hold that deed, the molecular ownership of your space changes. Every nail you drive into the wood, every tree you plant in the yard, and every memory you make in that kitchen is now anchored into something that is permanently yours. You aren't just staying there, you are rooted. The deep rest phenomenon. Have you ever noticed how you sleep differently in a hotel versus your own bed? Now imagine that feeling, but amplified by 1,000. When the mortgage is gone, your home becomes a psychological decompression chamber. The walls feel thicker, the air feels stiller, the background noise of the world's demands feels quieter. This is because your brain no longer associates your shelter with a performance requirement. You don't have to earn your right to be in that bedroom every single month. Your right to exist in that space has been fully bought and paid for. This leads to a state of deep rest, a level of recovery and rejuvenation that is physically impossible to achieve when you are under the pressure of a massive monthly debt. The true meaning of legacy. When the house is yours, the concept of legacy shifts from an abstract idea to a physical reality. You are standing on a piece of the earth that you have secured for your bloodline. You aren't just leaving your children money or stocks, you are leaving them a stronghold. In an era of rising rents, housing crises, and economic instability, you have created a permanent safe zone for your family. That knowledge changes the way you carry yourself. It changes the way you look at your neighbors. It changes the way you interact with the world. You are no longer a player in the rat race. You are